Michaela Vernava alongside Doug Kyde at Gillette Stadium, where the Patriots are preparing for their third preseason game, which will be in Charlotte, North Carolina against the Panthers. And this will be a big test for Jimmy Garoppolo as he goes up against an awesome Panthers front seven led by Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. How important is this game for Garoppolo, Doug?
It is important for him because this really is a good test for him. He's probably going to play potentially into the third quarter, at least the entire first half. Panthers will have their starters out there. So like you said, going up against some top defenders like Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, this was a Super Bowl team last year. So I think that this will give us a really good gauge of where Garoppolo is at. He'll probably get a ton of reps in this game. So we'll have a pretty large sample size to see where he's at in his development, where he is in the summer, and what to expect out of him in these first four preseason games, because he has been pretty good against the Saints and the Bears, but it is a pretty small sample size, and he started off a little bit slow, so I'd like to see Garoppolo get off to a little bit of a quicker start. At the same time, he will be playing with a lot more starters this week, so I think that it'll be good for him. And, you know, a lot of people make a lot out of these preseason games. I've even heard questions this week from reporters asking, you know, how do you game plan for the Panthers? They're not game planning for the Panthers, but they are going up against some talented defenders, so that is going to be good for Jimmy.
Well, it may not be that important of a game in terms of game planning. It is really important for the guys who are not roster locks because it's the last game before the first round of cuts on August 30th. So who has the most at stake on Friday night?
I think running back DJ Foster, just because he hasn't really been on the field this summer that much. He hasn't been in a padded practice until this week. He hasn't been in a preseason game. So that running back competition is still pretty wide open. He could actually carve out a role on this roster. Same thing goes for wide receiver Keyshawn Martin. He's still competing for a roster spot, and this is going to be his first preseason game as long as he gets out there. So if he's even as good as he was last year, I think that he can beat out those other receivers on this roster. Finally, the cornerbacks, the young cornerbacks, saw E.J. Biggers get released, so it's really going to come down to Crayvon LeBlanc, Jonathan Jones, and Darryl Roberts for that final fifth roster spot at cornerback. And whoever has the best weeks out here in these final two preseason games, that's going to be the guy who makes this roster. So definitely going to be watching at those three positions. And yeah, it's going to be good competition for these players, and they're going to get plenty of snaps because we've already seen some cuts. So they're really kind of carving out more time for all these players who are still on the roster.
Definitely a lot of pressure for these guys to really prove themselves. Thanks, Doug. Make sure to keep it on NESN.com for all your Patriots news.